What's up, Coachable family? Welcome back to the Coachable podcast. I'm your host, Tori Gordon, and today we are going to be talking about Alex and I's most recent ayahuasca experience. So I'm joined by my dear friend and brother and partner, Alex Gonzalez, today, who I can't wait for you guys to get to know. He and I had a recent transformational experience with the plant medicine ayahuasca. And I don't know about you, but my life is very much changed as a byproduct of this experience. And so today it felt important for us to sit down and talk about what happened, why we even said yes to doing something like this, break down some of the questions that you might have about it and what our experiences were like, and ultimately how we're doing after and how our lives are kind of unfolding and how we're integrating the insights and the lessons that have come and flooded in as a byproduct of doing something like this. So if you've ever considered plant medicine or psychedelic therapy, specifically with ayahuasca or any other plant medicine, this is definitely an episode you want to tune in for and possibly even sit down, take some notes, because we're going to share all of the details in this episode. So without further ado, we're going to jump in, and I want to welcome my good friend Alex to the show.
Super excited to be here. Absolutely blessed to share this space with you right now and kind of just share our story on what happened and everything leading up to that beautiful experience together. So
yeah,
unreal.
It's so juicy.
Unreal.
There's so much that's going to come out of this, and I'm really honored, as you know. I mean, I share this with you all the time, but anytime you and I get to share space and drop in and share from our hearts, it's always so fulfilling for me. And I want people in my audience to know you and experience you and your energy and your presence, because it's really so powerful. And for those that don't, that are just getting to know Alex for the first time, he's going to share some of his story. But I want to preface it by sharing that, our relationship is new. Our friendship is new in the sense that we met. When did we meet? Was it September?
September. Yeah. Officially, I believe it was, we had a LIB and then jumped into Radiance Festival.
Yeah.
Right after
So
that.
It was right around September when our local Vegas community was getting established. We met at a music festival, and since then, we were sort of circulating each other. We were in the same groups, but we hadn't yet had a connection really established between ourselves and had an opportunity to really get to know each other. But I've had a crazy year, and so have you. You and I have both been through a lot, which we will share in our own way. But for me, those of you who've been listening to the show, I've been alluding to the fact that I had a really hard start to the year. And there will be a day when I'm able to fully share and open the door to everything I've been through. Today is not that day. Unfortunately, there's still things that, and for reasons I can't share, why I can't talk about it. And that's one of the hardest things for me, because I build my audience and my platform and my work on transparency and being honest. There will be a day where I can do that, but just not today. So until then, just know I've been through a lot of loss, a lot of grief, a lot of pain, a lot of, this year has been about letting go. And then sort of you entered my life unexpectedly. Yes, we knew each other, but there was a time where I just felt called to get to know you on a deeper level, and felt this desire, because I had so many friends who talked to me about you and were like, Alex is amazing. You have to get to know Alex. Da, 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 da. And the best thing about our friend group is that these relationships happen sort of organically.
Yep.
In the right timing. And I reached out to you and asked you to go to coffee with me.
Yep.
Not that long ago, probably 2 months ago?
A little over 2 months. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
2 months ago. And it was in that coffee that I kind of opened my heart to you and just spilled out everything I was going through, because the energy and the presence in the space you show up in is so safe and so authentic. I just like couldn't help but like just like tell you and divulge everything I was going through. And so that was the day that things kind of started to change for us in terms of establishing a closer relationship. And then we've had so many crazy experiences since then, which we're going to talk about. But I say all that to say, this is a person, a man with the highest integrity that I've seen over the last couple months live and step into a deeper level of your own purpose and your own power. And you know who you are, you know what you're here to do and the impact you're here to make in the world. And it's a really fucking big one.
Yeah.
I am
appreciate
so
that.
excited
Yeah.
to be in partnership with you in the sense that we're doing work together and we're helping a lot of people and we're having a lot of fun in the midst of all of that. And so please share with people a little bit about your background, where you come from, and your experience with the plant medicine and psychedelic world in general. So I understand kind of like, how did you get to where you are today, where you and I are sitting down having a conversation about ayahuasca?
Yeah. So for me, basically I was blessed to have a family, a very spiritual family. Had to kind of go through stuff as a kid. Obviously operating from the space of more of an egoic child, more immature and stuff like that too. I had to go through all these different experiences in my life to actually lead me back to realizing what I had in my hands. My father and my uncle and a lot of my older siblings, we would get together regularly as a family, kind of sit in a ceremonial space, build fires, pay homage to all the four corners, very, very powerful ceremony stuff. Practices rather. And I just didn't know the gravity of what I was around being so young and just wanting to go skate with my friends or go do all these different things. And going through my life experiences brought me back to everything that I was surrounded by as a child and realizing wow, this is very powerful. Really learning to honor my lineage and honor all the things that I was always given and not ready to receive, I guess, at a younger age. Oh man. Yeah, it's just, it's crazy to come around full circle from that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, just like I said, having these teachings thrown into my hands earlier on as a kid, and then again, going through all those experiences, coming full circle was something that I needed to experience in that way, just to really understand what I had my hands on.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, coming from a Hispanic background, I was blessed to be in a space of ceremony as a child. And then again, going through my own life experiences kind of brought me back to really taking advantage and realizing what I had in my hands. So coming from some really tragic experiences in my life, I began to get back to my spiritual journey. In high school, obviously I dealt with psychedelics for a little bit. Not in the way that they should be dealt with, kind of just in that party scene, stuff like that too, having my first experience with mushrooms. And that was an awesome experience, very life-changing at that point, but I didn't respect the medicine for what it was at that time.
Yeah.
And then going through one of my biggest losses in life, like losing my daughter. I won't dive too much into that, but that was a very traumatic experience for me. And it brought me back to the space of, okay, where are you at in your life? What do you really want to do? And where do you want to go? Mm-hmm. So I was stuck at that crossroads after that experience. And I was like, man, I know there's more to my life. I know there's more purpose to it. So I definitely want to, change my life. And I took the dive. Mm-hmm. And I ultimately changed my life. I went down my spiritual journey, which has been calling me for so long.
Yeah.
And really began to work with those medicines and all the teachings that have been passed and given to me by my father, by my uncles, and really begin to utilize those things to change my life ultimately. Yeah.
Yeah. You and I have that in common in the sense that a significant loss was like a big wake up call for both of us to reevaluate what was most important and how we're living and why we're choosing the life we're choosing. Right. And I think for so many of us, trauma doesn't all of us, trauma doesn't discriminate. It comes in a ton of different forms. It doesn't care how you grew up or what side of the, what zip code you're from or what your family looks like or what skin color you have. It's like, we all have it. And it's about what we choose to do about it and how we choose to respond to the things that happen in our lives. Yeah. And there was a period for both of us where we were running from ourselves and not wanting to address the pain and the realities of some of the traumas we've experienced. But then, like you just said, you come to a crossroads and you're like, am I going to continue to choose this? Yeah. Or is this an opportunity? Life's trying to offer me a second option that it can look differently. Yeah, because I absolutely knew the man that I wanted to be in my life, coming from divorced parents and things like that as well. I knew what I didn't want to repeat. I saw myself as the chain breaker. And ultimately that was leading me to a path of, getting away from substance, getting away from alcohol, different drugs that I went through for a period of my life because I was numbing myself from a lot of my childhood experiences and my losses and things like that. And really finally deciding to go that route of essentially getting clean from all these things, right? And really starting to clear my body of all these different traumas. Just a lot of pain, a lot of pain that I had to get away from led me to the medicine again. And I began to, utilize microdosing, things like that, get back to ceremonies that my family held, in sacred space. And really just started to dive into that work that I needed to do for myself so I could show up in the way that I know I'm supposed to show up in this life. What does that mean so I just want everyone to know what we're talking about in terms of sacred medicines. We're talking about indigenous sacred plant medicines that have psychedelic and non-psychoactive properties. And these plants and these indigenous tribes and communities are like the wisdom keepers of our earth. And they have these codes built in them that they want to give to us so that we can stop living in suffering and we can be liberated and free. And this conversation is going to get esoteric. It's going to get out there. It's going to get woo-woo. It's going to get spiritual because it takes you these medicines, and we call them medicines for a reason because they are healing. And I'm going to differentiate between plant medicine and pharmaceutical synthetic medicines. The way I've been described, this has been described to me through the head of neuroscience and neurology at UNLV, to shamans in the Amazon jungle, to medicine men and women and people I dearly respect who've had years and years and come from lineages of this where they have been using these medicines in ceremony for hundreds, if not thousands of years, is they call plant medicine smart medicine and synthetic or pharmaceutical drugs as dumb medicine. One, you're taking a drug, like medicine should be preventative or curative. And if it's not curing you or preventing something, it's a drug if you're taking it over and over and over and over again to suppress or fix a symptom, right? Control a symptom. The reason they call plant medicine smart medicine is because unlike pharmaceutical drugs, a pharmaceutical drug has a job to do. It has a place to go and a job to do. And it is okay, I need to go and fix this serotonin reuptake inhibitor, I need to go and send, numb pain in this area. And it has a job and a path to follow. Sacred ceremonial plant medicine like ayahuasca, like psilocybin, like these other medicines, including peyote and hape and some of these other things, they're smart in the sense that they go where it is needed, not where it's told. So it will go into your system and find the spaces and the places that you need healing, because there's an intelligence and a wisdom within them. And so when you hear Alex talk about coming from a lineage and a family line of, since he was a child working with these medicines, you don't really know how rare that is when you grow up in that experience. It's like, for me, I grew up in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, where we won national football championships all the time. I didn't know that that was rare until I got around people who were like, we haven't won a game, or we don't even have a college football team. And so for you to say you kind of walked away from it, you're like, I didn't even know what this was. The power that was in my hands, the wisdom, the teachings that I held.
Yep.
And then I had to like kind of stray from this path to then come back to it, to realize this is not just like my work and my family, but this is the path for me too, like my healing.
Yep.
And so I want to talk about what led you to be interested in sitting with ayahuasca. When did you first start feeling the call? Because this is something people in these circles, if you've ever, like, when did you start to hear about it? And when did it start to become something you were consciously considering?
So first hearing about ayahuasca, I think I would say in my earlier 20s I've heard about it, because I've been around plant medicines for a very long time. So as most plant medicines will do is they will connect with you in different ways. Just like, I mean, anybody on a spiritual journey, right? You have synchronicities, you angel numbers, whatever it might be, a couple signs here and there. Some truck might pass with a legacy trailer and you're like, oh, my life legacy. Like, you know what I mean? It'll speak to you in that way. Going through my different phases with different my different times in connecting with different plant medicines. I've done a lot of work with psilocybin. That was definitely one of the most crucial and consistent relationships I've had with any plant medicine. I've sat with peyote a few times as well, in ceremony with family, with children of the peyote tribe, very, very close to us. Absolutely amazing ceremonies from, my oldest to the very youngest in our family. And it's just so life-changing. But recently, I would say the call for ayahuasca came just a few months ago, where it really started to just pop into my head. And, getting around people that serve ayahuasca in a ceremonial space, in a safe space, I began to kind of get offers like, hey, you should sit. And I was like, no, it's definitely not my time, having that little bit of fear, because I always, with the amount of work that I've done on myself spiritually, I know when I'm ready to dive into something or not. And I knew that I had to clear some blocks still in myself, in my relationships, the way I show up in my relationships, and just keep diving in on that shadow work to prepare myself for this medicine correctly. I'm really big on my intuition. I've never doubted it. So I listen to it when I get that call, or I'm guided to do more work in that space before going into something like that. So yeah, just recently in the most recent months that I've been called specifically by ayahuasca.
Yeah.
And just kind of thinking about it, like, man, like, I know this is exactly what I need, but I'm not ready to say yet, because you have to definitely be prepared. You have to be ready to surrender completely. And you have to also realize that going in there with no expectations is the best for the outcome in the medicine and what it needs to do. Because unlike most plant medicines, DMT is a little bit different. So
can you talk about what ayahuasca is? Yeah, and the compounds that are within it that.
Yeah. So ayahuasca is essentially a mixture of a root and a specific leaf that is then boiled, prepared as a brew, and it's definitely a bitter one. The taste, you cannot forget it once you take it. But yeah, so you're basically dealing with DMT. And with the DMT, unlike many other psychedelics, no matter what, if you try to resist it, you're going in. There's no question. So that's a big theme with the ayahuasca ceremony and medicine is surrender. Because once you're in there, you got about 6 to 8 hours.
Yeah, that's a huge theme of the medicine. It's how much are you willing to surrender?
Yeah.
And how much are you willing to trust? And I want to like piggyback off that really quick, because for me, I remember first time ever hearing about ayahuasca it was probably within the last 5 years, because my spiritual journey really started to take off and begin when I was 27. I'm 32 now. And that is when it started with a lot of personal development work, a lot of mindset work, a lot of belief system work. And then there was a doorway. Then it's like, you can't, for me, it was like, you can stop there, but there's more. And then it started to go into the metaphysics and energetic work and the somatic work of my body. And where am I holding on to trauma? What is how am I commanding and taking care of my energy? And what does energetic hygiene look like? Because I was an empath. I would take on everybody else's stuff. I would feel other people's emotions. I didn't know the difference between who am I and who are you? And like, especially in relationship, I would get all conflicted and confused. And it was then that the doorway opened to psychedelic therapy and plant medicine specifically. And my first experience was also with psilocybin, which is
amazing.
Dear
Yes.
to my heart. But ayahuasca was always that elusive thing that was always, there was also always some fear around it. It was like, oh, that's like the big one. If you're going to do ayahuasca, like that's jumping into the deep into the pool of self healing and self-awareness and consciousness and soul work. And so it was always this thing that was just like, I became aware of it. I started hearing about it. And then I started hearing other people talk about it. And it's one of those things when ayahuasca or plant medicine or mushrooms or anything come into your awareness, then you start noticing that it's popping up in different circles, or you're hearing about it in different ways. And for me, I always took that as like, this is the universe trying to guide me towards something. Now, be careful with that, because just because you become aware of something doesn't mean it's a good path you want to go down.
Think it over,
right?
Yeah.
But it did start being presented to me in all of these interesting, organic, playful ways. And I was like, let me get curious about this. What is it? And for me, I got, like you, I had been invited to sit in these ceremonies many times before, but there was always a resistance and a hesitation. And for me, it felt like the reason I chose to do it at this time, my soul knew it needed a refresh. It knew I needed to clear out some of the old things in my life that I was holding on to and remember who I am. Because candidly, I went through some things that caused me to sort of lose touch with my power and lose touch with my sense of self and who I really am. And the thing about plant medicines is they'll bring you back to who you are. And that's one of the purposes of sitting in ceremony with them is like reconnecting to your soul. Because there is a something that happens when we come into this world, when we come from love, our source, which we all stem from, and then we get cut off from that and we sort of lose connection to our soul and our purpose and who we are. And that's why there's so much fear and suffering in the world and pain in the world. And so these medicines help you to, one, have perspective and perceive your pain and suffering from a whole different way. It helps you to feel and process it in a way that's healthy so that you can let go of it instead of hold on to it. And then you sort of repair the connection that's been lost to your sense of true self and to your soul.
Yes.
And for me, I knew it was time to come home. Like I had been kind of lost and wandering in a sense. Like I still am Tori. I'm still doing my work, but there was a deeper level for me. And so when it was presented and I heard that you were going to go and I heard our other friend Chris was going to go, it opened up a doorway of feeling really safe to take that next step. When traditionally or in the past, I'd been a little hesitant and reserved and afraid because we were going to jump into the deep end of the pool.
Yeah, I think too. I think for me, like even sitting down with peyote, for example, very taxing on the body, a lot of purging. So I think something for me, even when I was a kid and I would go to some of those ceremonies, I would be scared to like purge. And a purge can come in different ways. When you're dealing with the plant medicine, it might be laughter, it might be crying, it might be extreme yawning, shaking. And the worst one for a lot of people is vomiting or, anything else that's possible. So just, I think a lot of things that hold people back or bring the fear on, especially when hearing about ayahuasca, is the purge.
Yeah.
And they're like, man, I don't want to like throw up in front of people. Like it started to get self-conscious and things like that. Right. But yeah, just like you said, hearing the call multiple times, having that fear around it, and then finally realizing like, hold on, Chris is going to a ceremony. You're going to a ceremony. Another one of our friends is going as well. Like, let's go. Yeah. Let's jump in the fire, because these people have been nothing but support for me. Amazing examples in my life. Absolutely life-changing to connect with all you guys. And I was like, this is time. Now it's time.
It sort of felt like we were all going into battle a little bit. Like we were all these like warriors, and we're like, okay, you sort of borrow someone else's courage when you're lacking it, and belief and trust. And that's what I did. And when we showed up, and that night, it was a Friday night, we did do it here with a tribe that operates. So a lot of people are probably wondering, where did we do this?
Right.
How did we do this? Did we go to Peru? Did we go to Costa Rica? Did we go to some retreat? We actually did it here in Vegas. There's a tribe that operates as an ayahuasca church. There is through the Religious Freedom and Restoration Act, there are certain establishments and institutions that are allowed to use these sacred sacraments as part of their spiritual practice. And we were able and introduced to a community that does this, and we're able to sit with them in ceremony here. And it was next level, which we're going to share. So I never really anticipated doing ayahuasca in the States. I thought it was always going to be something I would go down to the jungle, and I do feel that will probably still happen for me. But like I said, where I was in my journey, I needed assistance, and I needed assistance now. And it was being offered to me, and I said yes, under the presumption that like my soul and my intuition won't lead me astray. Like it knows that I will be taken care of.
Yes.
So when I found out about this, I said yes. And there was a group of us, of our friends, who were going to do it together. We started this is one thing that can happen. When you say yes to the medicine, it starts to work on you. Yeah. When you say yes, not when you partake, not when you drink, but when you commit.
Yes. And
we all were in the energy of ayahuasca and the energy of the medicine before we even showed up on the day of ceremony. Talk about what that was like for you. And I want to get into what we did the day before as well, as a way to prepare ourselves for what we were going to encounter.
Leading up to ceremony, obviously I'll dive into like the very first time that I was actually offered, which was a little bit after New Year's. And then transparently, where I was at personally in that time was coming out of a separation, dealing with heartbreak, and you're kind of like thinking like, oh man, do I really want to sit with medicine during a heartbreak? And
I don't want to feel all my heartbreak.
It's like, you absolutely do want to dive in. That's exactly when you want to go ahead and do that work. Because for myself, just to kind of like touch on my relationship, previously what it was, I was not showing up for myself. I was putting myself on the burner. And over time that can be very damaging, right? And that just was a closing theme that needed to end. And redirections are a blessing at the same time. So that initial call, I still had some fear around it. I was like, nope, not ready to go yet. I need to clear out some more things. And then comes that second call, that preparation. And I'm sorry, ask the question one more time. Sorry,
what did we do the day before? Because I think that call comes, you say yes, and then you commit, and then the medicine starts to work on you in the sense of like, what is your intention?
Yes.
Why are you saying yes to this? Because it's like, literally the phone rings and you pick it up and you're like, hello. Okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to engage with you, grandmother spirit of ayahuasca, because she is like it is a spirit that you can interact with and that you can conversate with. And when she calls and you engage with her, she's already working on you and within you.
Yes.
And so there was some work we all wanted to do in preparation for that.
Correct.
So how did you experience her prior to ceremony, if at all?
Yeah, no, I definitely did. So what I started to do, I went into the YouTube rabbit hole. I absolutely did.
Watching all the documentaries.
Which can be a good or bad thing, right? Because there's also Bufo ceremonies, and then which is also DMT, and then I dove into the ayahuasca. So just watching those experiences for people and the amount of clearing that happened during those things, I became extremely emotional. I've always been an emotional person myself. I can really feel other people's emotions. Even doing energy work, right? You can feel that surge of people's emotions as it's being cleared. So just seeing the beauty of the purge and the release for each individual experience, I would start tearing up. I was like, man, like this is the medicine. This is what I'm going to work with.
Yeah.
And then leading up to that, just really starting to get more and more disciplined on what I was tapping into, staying away from social media, starting to change up the diet, because you really do start to show how prepared you are with everything leading up to that. And I wanted to have the most beautiful experience with Aya, and I wanted to connect with her because I know how powerful each individual plant medicine is. Mm-hmm. And when you show her that respect leading up to the ceremony, you're guaranteed a beautiful experience no matter what.
Yeah.
And a lot more ease. For me, surprisingly for me, and I still tell people about the experience and they're like, wow, that's crazy. Like, I connected with her right away. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So, because I had a lot of respect leading up to that. Yeah. And I was just giving a lot of thanks. I would sit in meditation. I would, do my own ceremonies at home and just give thanks for the connection and the experience that was about to come to me.
Yeah. That's a huge piece of it, is like how you choose to prepare and set your intentions and clear your body and clear your mind in preparation for receiving all of these insights and all of this experience. And so there's definitely a dieta, like a diet that is kind of prescribed and recommended that you follow, because the cleaner your body and your temple is, the less friction and the less blockages there is for you to start to receive. Mm-hmm. And then, so we did this on a Friday night. Yes. It's offered over a weekend. And on Thursday night, our group of friends, including a couple other dear, like community family members, basically of our tribe, got together. And we did sort of like a pre-ceremony ceremony, where we sat with cacao and hape. And if you don't know what hape is a non-psychoactive plant medicine. It's a ground up tobacco snuff that has other herbal medicines in it. Mm-hmm. And basically what happens is it gets blown up your nose. And Alex and I have both worked with this medicine before in ceremony. It's part of my meditation practice. I use it fairly regularly as a way to connect. And when you partake or are offered hape, it clears your energetic channel. It clears your chakra system. It helps you to connect to your crown and open up your crown and grounds you. It is an extremely grounding medicine. However, it's kind of a shock to the system when you first receive it. It kind of goes up into your nostrils and into your nasal passage and shakes everything up. It kind of burns. But then there is a settling that happens. So the way I describe a lot of my plant medicine experiences, including ayahuasca as well as hape, is like when you first receive it, this snow globe gets shaken up and you feel it go up into your head. And so it's all of that stuff is shaken up. And then there's a settling that occurs where all that energy settles back into your body and you're able to ground and you feel deeply, deeply connected to yourself, your body, and the earth. And what's so profound about this is many of us have a very disconnected relationship to our body. We do not sense and feel in the way we're meant to sense and feel because we're numbed and we're disassociated and we're cut off and we repress because we've learned through traumatic experiences in childhood that it's not safe to feel. Mm-hmm. And for me, hape has been such a teacher and assistant in helping me to drop out of my head where I spend so much time and I overanalyze and I overthink. So if you are somebody who relates to that, is anxious, Hape clears all of that out.
Yep.
And helps me to land right into my heart and into my body in a way that really feels safe, where it's like, I would not, the feeling I get when I have Hape is once I get over that initial intensity is I'm home. I'm home in my body and there's nowhere else I would rather be. I don't want to escape this place. I don't need to fix this place. It's not a judgmental thing of like something's wrong with my body and I want to pick it apart. It's like, oh, this is where I belong. And that connection of feeling so grounded is so essential when going into ceremony with these other medicines, because you, in many ways, disconnect from your body and are being elevated into these alternate dimensions. So it's really important that you have a connection to this reality and this plane and dimension while you're doing space travel in alternate dimensions, because the ayahuasca, the work is done primarily in alternate dimensions. It's hard to even describe the state and place in which this work is happening in, but it's not, it's happening on the 3D, but it's also happening on every other dimension that exists.
You're in a whole different world.
Yes. So I think it's important for us to share, which is why I wanted to share about the night before, because that was a time where we all got together and could really share, why are we here? Why are we saying yes to this? Why us at this time? Talk about what we hope to receive and what we're ready to let go of. But really just connect to our hearts and to get into the spirit of ceremony, where we really are there with reverence for the medicine and for what the journey that we're about to go on, which is completely in the unknown. And begin the process of surrendering to stepping into the unknown. Yeah. What was that like for you that night before?
That night was extremely powerful. But just to hold space, you know what I mean? With all of our friends, feeling that safety and comfort was absolutely important. And I believe, because even for that night, I was about 3 days fasted already, you know, eating a couple mandarins and some water here and there, because I really wanted to go in there on a whole different level, completely disciplined. But working with Hape, absolutely beautiful. I actually had done a ceremony on February 2nd leading up to that night, before Aya, where I sat with Hape and my heart center just exploded. Like all the stuff that I was holding on to, just a gateway. As soon as I got the initial portion of Hape, obviously very intense. So once you surrender past the intensity, again, like you described, an instant drop. Went from my third eye directly to my heart center, and my just felt like a portal was just exploded out of my chest, right? All these emotions just flowing out. And then again, sitting with you guys in that space the night before, it was like, again, we're gearing up, we're getting ready to go to war, and it's time, right?
Yeah.
The phoenix rising from the ashes. So just when you sit intentionally with any plant medicine in a group like that, and you're able to share openly and really express yourself and hold space for each other, it's very important for me. And again, diving back into my childhood and everything that I've been brought up with, I always knew that I was supposed to be a healer. I just needed to get through all my blocks. I needed to get away from all those energy blocks to get myself to the space where I know I'm here to hold space for people and assist people in their own healing.
The wounded healer, where it's like heal thyself. You have to go through your own healing before you can offer anything to anyone.
Yeah. So essentially this was like a big initiation for me. Obviously sitting very deep with other plant medicines before. So kind of having that courage of like, hey, I've done this before, but it's not going to be the same. Whole different animal. I just felt extremely honored to be able to serve next to you and all the work that we're about to be doing very, very soon as well. And the journey, because just kind of shooting back, like when I barely met you the first time, I was like, intuitively, I always get these downloads. It's like, hold on, like, I know we just met, but you seem very familiar. And I know that me and you have a purpose in this life, and we have some very serious work to do.
Yeah.
And then finally coming full circle on that.
I know,
right?
because
So
taking
crazy.
it back to when I first had coffee with you,
Yes.
I had an intention going into that.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know how to explain the intuition that I had, which was like, I feel guided to get closer to you in some way because I know that there's work for us to do.
Mm-hmm.
And in that coffee, when we first sat down, I was like, do you want to facilitate medicine work with me?
Yeah.
I feel like you're meant to, and I don't. And it was in that, like, this door was opened for us to potentially work together, but also explore this work together.
Yep.
And so that was the beginning. And then when we did Hape, we offered it to all of our friends and we co-facilitated that experience together. And it was beautiful. And it was the first like establishment of what we were going to do collectively and how we were going to hold space for our community and our tribe and create these opportunities for people to come in person and have these encounters and experiences and healing. And what I love about working with you is like you hold that masculine dynamic and that masculine energy and presence of safety and clarity and decisiveness and discernment and devotion. And I bring this other motherly like softness and nurturing and really let people move through their shit in a way of like, I'm going to hold you through this. And that's what we brought together. And that was the first time it was established, was like on that night. And what we didn't realize is like that was pre-preparation for what we were going to go into the next night, which is when we sat with Aya. So I want us to talk about and move into Friday night, which is the night that we sat with the medicine and what that was like. So we show up to the space. Yeah. And there were about 16 to 20 of us that were going to be sitting in ceremony. And the way this was done at a house, so we weren't at a retreat center, we were at someone's house, and it was all set up for a ceremony. So in the sense that the space was very clean, clear, the energy was really clear. You could tell that this was going to be like a sacred ceremony is going to happen here. So when you come in, you honor that space. And you come in knowing that nothing outside of this gets to have space. Like your phones are off, you're coming in, you take your shoes off, and you just go ahead and start to drop into like, why am I here with all of these other people and what's going to happen? Yeah. And so we circle up and we start to share sort of our intentions. And before I get into that, I have to tell you about the night before. So we have our Hape ceremony.
Yes.
And then I go to sleep. And Alex and I both have intense dreams. I have very intense dreams and I journey almost like I do with psychedelics in my dreams. I didn't realize this until recently, but this is something my soul's been doing in my dream state. And the night before, I had a dream that we all went to ceremony and we're supposed to sit and something is off. And in my dream, the facilitator who was supposed to be there wasn't there. And one by one, we all start to feel like something's off. I don't feel safe. I don't want to do this. And so I woke up the next morning where we're like going into ceremony. And they're like, no, we don't want to do this. This isn't right. This isn't safe. And I had this weird sense. I was like, does this mean I'm not supposed to do it? Like, does this mean I'm trying to be guided away from this? And what the message was not about that at all. It was about trust. And trust ended up being a massive theme of my experience. And it had come up when I said yes to medicine. Trust started to sort of come up as a signature theme that I needed to work on. And then it was coming up again in my dreams, and then it came up again in my ceremony. And so with this dream, it was showing me that I can trust myself, that I know when I'm in the presence of safety and when I'm not. And don't question my intuition, my gut. I will know if I'm I'll know if I'm okay and if I'm held and safe or if I'm not. And so my dream was trying to show me that I could trust my own discernment.
Mm-hmm.
So when we showed up that night, I was very like, if there's anything off here, I'm out. Like if something gives me weird vibes, like I shared it with you and you were like, I have no problem getting up and leaving and having no issue with that.
Yeah. Cause you want to feel completely safe, right? Especially in something like that. You want to have confidence in the people that are leading you ultimately
100%.
through that space. That's why it's very, very important for your shaman to be 100% in there and experienced and give you the best possible outcome.
Yes. Yes.
It's no joke.
Which is interesting because we definitely felt that we, at least for me, the facilitators, the guardians and the shamans that facilitated this medicine did it with the utmost integrity and impeccability.
Yes.
I felt very safe. Otherwise, I would not have done it. I would have literally walked out. But it was interesting when we're sitting there before we dive into ceremony, we're all sharing who we are and the door opens.
Yeah, the door. Oh, this moment is so crazy.
It's so crazy. So please explain what happens.
Okay, so we're basically sitting there doing like an intro for everybody getting to know each other, you know. And then randomly there's a knock on the door and this guy comes through, just looks like a fictional character in a movie. Very tall, just kind of like see the hand creep behind the door and he kind of like just pops his head out and he has like this crazy vibe. And we look at each other like, who is this guy?
What is this?
What is this? Like, is this that signal to
leave?
I'm not with it. Because his energy, I don't know if maybe it was just him specifically in that moment. His energy was not what I wanted around.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in that moment, I was like, okay, we might have to exit.
We looked at each other like, no, nope, not what we want. And it was so bizarre. The door opened and his fingers came around the door. And then this like man with this Zorro type, he had like all black, this top hat.
Yeah.
These dark eyes. And we're like, we feel this like energy come into the space. And we're like,
not a good
and we have
energy.
we are not on anything. We are sober. And we're like, what is that?
Yes.
Ended up being a miscommunication around something.
Yeah.
And they leave.
Yes.
So our facilitator was like, this is not for you. You're not meant to be here. We need to ask you to leave. And they really took care of it.
Yeah.
But it was a moment where we're like, okay.
Oh, the dream might be real.
This dream is coming true. We all need to exit. But it was held.
It was so funny.
It was really funny and it was handled with a lot of care.
Yes.
So the ceremony space was very safe. Mm-hmm. And after that little funny moment, because we were all like, whoa, this is intense. Shell-shock. What are we going to see? Like, because he literally was like a character.
Yeah, it's like kind of like a Slender Man type of deal. Like his hand popped in and then suddenly he like got even taller coming in the room. And we're just like, who is this guy?
Yes, what is happening?
Grab my stuff. Let's roll out.
So we got past that. And then it was time to move into ceremony. And so we all prepared. We brought blankets and bedding and everything to be really comfortable because you're on the ground for an extended period of time. We began around 6 p.m. and we didn't end until around 1:30.
1:32.
Yeah, it was when ceremony closed. Mm-hmm. So when we all filed in and got our spaces, you and I ended up being next to each other. Our friend Chris was right in front. There were several people we knew. They were all around us, but because of the configuration of the room, you and I ended up next to each other.
Yep.
Which I was happy about because I was like, okay, I know someone I know is next. I'm not next to a stranger, because the thing with ayahuasca is people can have a lot of different varying experiences.
Yes. Purging
being one of them.
Yep.
And you can purge in so many different ways, as he mentioned, like vomiting, diarrhea, laughter, yawning, crying, shaking. There's so many different things. And so when you go into ceremony, you become one sort of with everyone there is having this experience, including the shaman and the facilitators. But if you're sensitive to energy and to other people, it can be a bit distracting if you don't know how to stay within your experience or allow those things to be part of it, but not become your experience. Right. And so he and I ended up together. And as we started to enter into ceremony, part of it was just allowing yourself to drop in. And before I did this, like I have this journal. My friend gave it to me. It's my medicine journal, where I journal all of my medicine experiences, psychedelic and non-psychedelic. And I've had Dr. Sam on this show. We've talked about my ketamine sessions. I've done a lot of different work. And it's so interesting because I went into this ceremony with a lot of intention to deal with trust. Yep. And when I look at my intention, because I wrote from our hape night and our cacao night, and then day of, I wrote and journaled about what I was like going into with. And I'll just read what I wrote. I didn't expect to do this, but I think it's important. So this is the day of. I've been called, but afraid to answer the call until now, is how it starts. Now is the moment I'm ready to meet myself in ways I have yet to. I have not read this back. My prayer and intention is that the medicine, Mother Aya, would hold me with her loving presence. The divine love would teach and guide me to the light of my strength, power, and purpose. May I receive the lessons with grace and ease. May I play in the multidimensional realms and find and reconnect to the parts of myself that have been lost, so that all can be found, integrated, and healed in love. May I release the fear, judgment, and darkness that keeps me separated from my worthiness, value, and power. May I come home and stay in communion with the divine intelligence that is the source of life itself. Show me, teach me, guide me, heal me, love me, awaken me. And then I just like scribbled trust. Faith will never leave you alone. I have faith that all is working together for my highest good. It is safe to surrender. I am safe. I kept writing, I am safe. Yep. Love is here. I trust myself to know the way back to light and the way back to love. And some of the questions that I went in with, because it's important to kind of clarify why you're there and your intention for the medicine. It's how can I become okay with letting go? Which is, why am I so attached to certain things or people who aren't loving me back? It was around a lot around release. What is standing in the way of experiencing who I really am? Yep. And I wrote turn toward and lean in. That was like how I entered into ceremony. Was with all of those intentions.
Yeah, I had a couple meditations leading up to that where I was just writing things down on a regular basis, just really thanking Mother Aya for connecting. Again, everything that I was about to receive. And I was actually really excited.
Yeah, you were in a really good space.
I was really excited. Because I've been doing and deep diving into the work for myself religiously, very consistently. So I went in there with uttermost confidence and I kept getting messages and kind of downloads like, you're going to receive your gifts and just trust me, release expectation. I kept reaching out to people like, hey, what was your experience like? Right. That's cool. But your experience will be completely different.
Yeah.
So I try to get away from that. Really just reaching out too much and, trying to build an experience that I haven't had yet around other people's experience. So,
because we want to know. That's the thing. That's the nature of the ego. Is like we want certainty. We want to know what is unknowable.
Yes.
And so we do that by trying to understand other people's experiences and thinking and sort of having an expectation of that might be ours, but it's so unique and personal to you. You will get what you need. 100%. And so even if you hear everybody else's experience, even as we share ours, it will be very unique to you.
Yes. Yeah, that's why even pre-ceremony too, right? When he kind of describes like, she might drop in on you like this, you might experience her in this way, or just release all expectations, I was just like giddy. I was like in my seat. I was like, oh man, like we're going in. Like I'm so excited. And I just kept saying thank you. I'm ready to receive all my gifts.
Yeah.
I'm here completely in surrender, and I'm ready to receive my gifts, because I was truly in a space after all the tower moments that I've been experiencing, and just the amount of heartbreak that I was coming back from, and just everything leading up to that moment. I was like, I'm ready to dive into the next level of my life. And I'm here completely surrendered to whatever this experience is. And I'm very excited to meet you. I kept saying that, like speaking to Mother Aya, very excited to meet you, and I'm ready to receive my gifts. And yeah. Beautiful.
Okay. So before, we got a text from a friend of ours who has worked with this medicine before, and she gave us a couple tips. And these were the tips she gave us. Surrender is a lovely place to be. Release your expectations. You can have a conversation with her, talk to her, and ask great questions. Stay open. The breath is your friend.
Yes.
The breath is your friend.
That's so
we will
huge.
talk more about that.
Yeah.
Purging can come in sweating, shaking, yawning, vomiting, all different types. Have lots of warm blankets. Bring your own tissues. If you feel a purge is coming, drink water and move the energy up your spine. Tell your body it's safe to let go and trust that the medicine will do her thing. If you get stuck, come back to your heart. Remember gratitude. Always say thank you. So we had that as a reference point going in, all of us. And some of the things that were shared to us prior to drinking were that we could experience her being the spirit of ayahuasca in several different ways. That she could present herself and show herself through visuals, hallucinations, through animals.
Yes.
Which you'll talk about. And through intense feelings. The shaman that we worked with said, you will know she's near if you get a chill that is so deep, no amount of blankets will be able to warm you up.
Yeah.
And boy, did I have that. So we go into ceremony. Ceremony gets opened. There is a whistle that you hear that the shaman whistles out, and you know things are about to go down.
Yes.
And that's when we were offered our first cup. And we all came up to the altar, received, and went back to our, no. Actually, it was given to us at our,
passed out.
It was passed out.
Got in your space, prepared your space.
Yeah.
Again, just going back to it, I was very glad to be next to Tori, because again, you could be very sensitive to energies, other experiences. And it's kind of like, I don't know you fully yet. After the ceremony, we're going to be family for sure, because you share that space, right? And you get so close, and it's just like, hearing everybody's stories and what they've released, etc. You get very close afterwards, but leading up to it, you kind of just want to watch.
Yeah, we had some familiarity, which was nice.
Yeah, so that was cool. And so came that first initial prayer, and that first cup was passed out.
So we took the first cup.
Yeah.
It is definitely a taste you will not forget. How do you describe it? It's like a sour dirt.
It's like sour, extreme bitter, like
bitter.
That's the only time I really felt nauseousness during that time, which was surprising. And I just had to like drink tons of water.
They say, don't think, just drink. Yeah. That's the motto. Don't think, just drink.
Yeah. But I was definitely like, I wanted to sit with the cup for a couple minutes, set my intention at least one last time, because there's no going back after that.
Yeah.
No going back. Yeah.
Yes. So we did. And we all drank of the medicine. And then the ceremony begins. And I laid down. And what happens is, for the first couple hours, you're in the medicine with your first cup. And then there's an opportunity to take a second cup. And I'll begin by sharing just my experience with the first cup, and then I'll have you and share yours. And then we'll get into like what actually happened. What happened? Right. So for me, there are a range of ways in which this can come on. And for some people, it came on very quickly. And the medicine took them, for me, it took a long time. And I thought I was going to have what they call a nada journey, which is like nothing happens. I literally thought for the first hour, I was like, oh, something is this just doesn't work on me for whatever. Like, I don't know, maybe I'm just like either broken or I'm enlightened. I'm not sure which one. Like, it's just not coming on. And I was like, I guess I'm just going to lay here for the rest of the night and listen to everyone else purge and have intense experiences. And I don't know, maybe it just isn't going to happen for me. Come to find out, that's not uncommon. And as I start having this conversation in my head, she starts to come. And initially she's light and she's playful. And the first thing she shows me as she presents herself is that I can trust her. There is a knowing that she has arrived and she can be trusted.
Sometimes.
And I can't explain it to you. So much of what we're going to share is ineffable. Like, it is unexplainable. It's hard. We have gone into a realm where language doesn't exist the way that we use language.
No.
It is energy. And we're trying to translate to the best of our ability with words what we experienced. But there was a knowing that she was there and she could be trusted. And on the first cup, it was about an hour and a half in, and I start to feel her working. And for me, it was very physical. You can have physical, emotional, spiritual, all different types of experiences. I had several, but there was a lot of physical release for me. I can even like feel it. And she started to move, and it came up in this, I was so uncomfortable. I mean, the amount of discomfort that I had in my body, and I couldn't get comfortable. I sat up, and we all have individual buckets in case you need to purge. And I'm just sitting there because what happens is the shaman is singing an Icaros, and he's using all these different incredible instruments, and he's singing this song, and the music that is happening in ceremony is very intentional. It is for the movement of energy. It is for healing. It is not for entertainment. The music that comes through the shaman and through the musicians is being translated and being brought in for specific purpose. And there are times where you feel deeply connected to the music, and there are times where you might not, because it's not for you. It's for someone else who's deeply moving a lot. So as the music would change, I would feel different experiences, and I would sit up and I could just feel that I needed to let go. I was going to purge. I was going to vomit. And this was so important, knowing this information ahead of time. But as I would get sick and it would come up and it would move throughout my entire body, I was being taught, one, how to let go. How to let go and how to surrender. And part of it was trust that in letting go, this is everything you don't want to do. You're holding on to this, these emotions, these people, these past experiences. And it's time to release. It's time to release, and it's safe to release. Yes. And I would remember I would say to myself, I'm not getting sick. I'm getting well. I'm getting well. Every time it would come up, and I would purge and I would release. And I didn't know necessarily what it was pertaining to. I wouldn't have a visceral memory that this is what I'm releasing. I just knew I didn't need it anymore. And I would purge, and then immediately on the other side of that, feeling that you've been taught your whole life just to swallow it, hold it down. Maybe if I can move in this direction, it'll go away. It's like, I am here and I am not going anywhere until you let this go. And I would release, and then my entire body burst into a visceral cold sweat. I was just like sweating profusely, and I would lay down on my mat, and it was this intense relief, like this intense physical cellular release. And the sweat was just an expression of that. Because for me, there was so many lessons around the paradoxes of life, around holding on and letting go, around how all of this will pass. The things that you think are going to go on forever, that you're always going to feel this way, is like, no, this will pass, but you have to be fully with it. You have to fully feel it for it to pass.
Yes.
And that was one of the biggest insights, is like, don't shy away. Don't run away from this discomfort or this pain. Embrace it. It's here to teach you something, and then it will go if and only when you receive the lesson from it. So that was a lot of my first cup, was that. And even though I did purge, it didn't feel like, it felt like there was so much more that she wanted to show me and teach me. I had very little hallucinations, or very, very little visuals, a few on the first cup. But for me, it was this whole experience of learning to trust the process of the experience itself. And that I would get what I needed, but what you resist will persist. That was like one of the number one lessons, is if you fight it, you will be in so much more suffering. Let it come and let it move. Yeah.
They describe that as the loop, right? You're not able to process or surrender to that experience. So it'll be like, okay, let's show you a different version. All right, you're not ready to again. Let's show you a different version until you completely surrender to that. And that's so huge. And I think the reason why she connected with me so fast and so friendly the first time was because I was just like in deep surrender, right? I think we all were to a certain level, but I was just like kid in a candy store, like super excited. I was like, all right, very ready to meet you. So after sitting with that first cup, couple minutes of intention, just like, all right, like this is it. You know, we're going in, like just starting to really feeling that ease. Room's dark, couple candles here and there. He's playing his music, getting started in that aspect. And it's so crazy because you're just talking about it right now. Like you can still go back to that.
Right? I can. Yeah.
Yeah. So taking that first cup, getting through that insane bitterness, all that flavor, I would say about 35 minutes. I started to feel it. I was anticipating a lot at first, just to kind of be like, oh, like, how is she going to appear to me? You know, just like, what's it going to be like? Or how am I going to feel here? After just sitting there, closing my eyes, finally, I was in like a meditative pose, pretty much sitting up. I was not able to lay down the whole time, which was crazy to really think about that. For my first time, I was in meditation for about a good 15 minutes, eyes closed. And then I got my first visual. Basically out of my right side with my eyes closed, I saw faces of several shamans starting from the eyes, like a movie scene, like when they zoom in and like it's like on their eyes and they're looking through the jungle and they're like hunting somebody down or something like that. But very curious, and then it would kind of close and then it would open up again. And then I started to see more and more of the faces. But it was about 4 to 6 shaman. Very full headgear, you know, feathers and everything. And I was like, oh, wow, okay. She's here now. And there are, aside from Aya as well in the experience, there are many different entities you can come across.
Yes.
In that space. And I was just like, okay, so here we are, you know, getting super excited about it, continuing to just sit there and then going back to the breath. Thankful for Obsidian for really reminding us of that, because it's so powerful. What breath work has done for me, even leading up to that experience, I knew that was going to be my saving grace. If I ever needed to get out of a tough spot or completely surrender, get back to the breath. And I just continue to breathe. And finally, more and more, those initial faces kind of disappeared. And then here come the fractals, all the different, I can describe them as machine elves, as some have also experienced.
Yes.
Gestures, very, very fractal, insane colors, very bright. And that's when I laid down the first time, because I was like, okay, like I'm in here now. I started to feel the third eye pressure, and I just started to feel it start to kind of work to the left side of my face. And I close my eyes, and then the first wave of gestures comes out, and then they're just like, check this out. And I was just in amazement the whole time. I was like, wow, just really in a state of gratitude for being able to
Mm-hmm.
connect with them. It's very weird for people to hear that, I guess, until you actually experience it yourself.
So there's like these little beings.
Yeah, essentially little beings, like little clowns, if you will, but they're not scary. I did see some faces that kind of changed at some points where it was just like, that's crazy.
Did you ask them? Did you know what they were there for?
I knew what they were there for. I would say 10 minutes after they stopped doing their little light shows for me
Okay.
and showing me all that stuff, just kind of being playful and presenting themselves to me. So the way I experienced it and the way I've also seen other people experience it is you're on a cosmic surgery table.
It's like celestial surgery.
Celestial surgery, 100%. And
It's crazy
it's
hearing
wild.
your experience and then now going back and listening to other podcasts and stuff about ayahuasca.
Right.
I had never heard. So I heard your experience and then now hearing other people have the exact type of experience. You just said, I was listening to on the way here, a podcast, and she said, all I could see were eyes.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like I had all this experience and heard about it and now you're saying it. And I'm like, oh, maybe he heard about this and now he's saying, it's like you explained it.
Yeah.
And now I'm hearing other people confirm this. It's like it happens in these other realms. Like you're literally, it's a type of journey you can have, which is a celestial surgery type of journey.
Yes.
Yes.
So
What does that mean?
So I think when you're sitting on that cosmic table, you're essentially getting work done on your energy body outside of the physical body. Because surprisingly, when you're with ayahuasca and you're sitting there, you're still very much aware of your physical body, which is crazy.
Yes. You're conscious of where you are.
Right. So whenever I'd open my eyes, obviously the room looked completely different. Now I'm deep in medicine, about an hour into medicine, hour and a half. And even just opening your eyes, the visuals and the way things move and the way the facilitators are moving in there, it's insane. A lot of fractals. Everything just looks like tiny bits of everything. Right. Even sound has a visual to it. It's crazy. So I was like, okay, every time I need to get centered again, I'm gonna open my eyes up and I'm gonna just kind of chill for a second. And then as soon as I close my eyes back up again, I'm back in there, full swing. And like I said, they started to work on the left side of my head. I saw a couple of those gestures kind of just like change forms and kind of just do these little things like, hey, we're here with you. You know what I mean? Like, check this out. Check this out. Check this out. And they just kept changing and the vibrance, the colors, beautiful. As an artist, as a visual as well, I was like, man, I want to recreate these. Like, people need to see this.
Well, they say it presents to you in the way that you receive it. So, like, you're an artist, so it's showing you in colors and in dimensions that, like, you understand.
Yeah.
Versus someone else who might experience and perceive things a whole new way. And that's what the intelligence of this medicine is. It's smart. It's going to give it to you in a way that you will understand it so that you can receive what it's meant to show you. So what his experience is completely different than mine because I learned differently.
Yeah, you might have a different experience for sure. So they just continued to do the surgery. So it started on the left side of my face, felt that pressure just getting more and more intense on my third eye and my body. And I just kept feeling like it was just being compressed. Like I started here and then by the end of it, I was like this, just flattened completely. And then they're just doing all the work. And while they're doing the work on me, I'm like, oh, awesome. Like, yeah, go ahead, do that. Yep, that's awesome. Cause I know they're working on my energy body, right? And understanding really.
You're like welcoming them. You weren't like,
I was like, oh, hey, what's up? Like, do your thing. And I could just feel some work being done on this side and then moving to this side. And just being completely surrendered and just in awe of the whole experience and everything that I was seeing at that point. And I would just kind of like open my eyes and be like, how are the girls doing?
Yeah.
Checking on Tori. And I'd be like, in my head, I'd be like, go Tori. Like she'd be purging or whatever. And I'd be like,
look over here.
I'm cheering my people on. You know what I mean? Cause it's a very big thing to step into. And the work that is done in this space is very, very impactful.
Yeah.
Just to see and experience as well. So I was just cheering you guys on, just making sure everybody's cool. And really just getting back to my own experience, holding space for people in my own, because it was crazy because I also had my feather with me.
Talk about your feather.
Yeah. So my dad had given me a ceremonial feather about 2 days prior. And that's been in the family for a very long time. It's usually usually used, during a ceremony to clear energy out. And I've always bugged him about it. Like, can I borrow it? Like, can I have it? And he's like, no, it's not your time yet. And then leading up to the ceremony, I asked him again, and he was like, yes, this is yours now. And that makes me emotional right now just talking about that, because it's so crazy. It's a rite of passage. All the work that I've done, all the experiences leading up to this ceremony was like, you're ready now, bro. And you know that for a fact.
Mm-hmm.
It's still going to be scary on the other side of this experience, but I know who I'm going to become outside of this experience. Let's go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I had
it was
that.
like the torch was like
It was
handed
the
down,
staff.
literally
Yeah,
the
yeah.
staff of truth that was like
Mhm.
handed down to you to like
Yeah.
now be such a guide, not you to use it for yourself, but to also be a guide for other people.
100%. And just to be able to show up fully authentically in that space. So during that, you know, moving energy for myself, I suddenly had to sit up, and I was in meditative pose basically the entire rest of the night. And every so often, like there was just like a magnetic pull towards the feather, and I would grab it and I would just start moving energy because people were starting to purge in the room, right? And this, you start to feel that, and you acknowledge it, but you don't want to tap into it for too long. So I'd be like, oh, Tori's purging. Let me clear this out.
You
Chris
really
is purging. Let me clear this out.
helping me move.
And then going back to myself. So having my own experience, but again, just being very aware of the room. Yeah. And it was just like a confirmation. There was a point where some of the entities that were interacting with me, these amazing fractal beings of insane color, were just like, don't you realize how comfortable you are here? Don't you understand why you feel so at ease here right now? Like, this is what you're supposed to do. And you've already known this, but we're going to confirm it for you tonight. Like, this is your initiation, 100%, into stepping into this role as a healer. And I was just like, man, just that feather felt so insane.
Yeah.
The power behind it was just next level.
It's beautiful.
It.
It's such a, I wish it was to show it.
It's
so beautiful.
It's
such a beautiful tool. And it's an extension of you for sure. And I can feel that when we work with it.
Yeah.
Outside of ceremony and inside of ceremony.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so interesting hearing your experience and then understanding my own and how individual and beautiful it is for like each of us in our own different way. Because at around, like, I know for you, you had all of that. And then it was like 2 hours in, we're offered the second cup.
Yeah.
And so our facilitator said ahead of time, when I offer the second cup, like, you will know if it's for you or not.
Yeah.
And I had this whole negotiation with myself pre-second cup. I was like, there's no way I'm doing this again. This is too intense. This is too much. No way. Good luck to everybody else. I hope you have a great experience.
Right.
I'm not doing it. And as soon as he offered that second cup, I was like, it's for me. It's for me. There's no going back. Because she had come and I had purged and I had gotten some, but I knew that there was more. And I sat up, I walked up to the altar, and he says to me, how was your first cup? And I said, I don't know where it came from. I just mustered up as much courage as I could. I was like, it's good, but there's more. There's more. And I walk back to my set up my little my little section, and I laid down on my mat, and I said to you out loud, I said, I didn't come here to stay the same.
Yep.
And I have to do this for myself. I didn't come here to have a fun experience to just talk about. I came here to leave different and to leave transformed. And that was when I did the don't think, just drink moment.
Yeah.
I was like, because your mind, you will try to talk yourself out of it.
Yes.
And I was like, I didn't come here to get in my own way and talk myself out of a transformation. And so I took it, and I knew I would just be protected. I would be taken care of, and she would give me what I needed and not more. And then as soon as everyone was offered that, we went back into the medicine and into ceremony, but you chose not to, which
I chose not to. So since I've been doing so much work, I would say literally 15 plus years, with plant medicine, high doses of plant medicine, a little bit goes a long way for me. I actually connected with a guide a couple years back, I would say a year back prior to all this. And she met me and kind of just did a full reading on me. And she was like, do you use psychedelics? And I was like, yeah. She's like, you don't need to. She's like, you're already completely open. You are the medicine already. So be careful with that. You know what I mean? Like, cause you open yourself, your energy body to, different things. So I knew, again, I took a little bit of a break and got back to my, microdosing and things like that moving forward. But with that first cup, I was so in there. I was receiving everything outside of the cosmic surgery. You know, there's more experiences that came to follow once the ceremony commenced. And I remember one of our other friends that was a little bit closer to the very front of where all the music was being played. She turned around and looked at me, and I just gave her a thumbs up. And I was like, I'm so good. Yeah. I do not need another cup. I'm so good. And I was like, I honor you guys. Go get your second dose. And I was just, at that point, my purging was, I was just laughing. Yeah. I was just in such a good space. I was just like, nope, I'm good. Yeah. Closed my eyes and I went back in while you guys got your second cup. Yeah. And then you came back and sat down right there. And I was like, get it in, girls. Yeah. Like, I applaud you guys. Get it in. Absolutely. I don't need it. Yeah. Yeah. So we took the second cup and then we went back in. And I think what we'll do is we'll take a break and we'll come right back with what came after. Because for me, it was the deepest work of my life. It was the hardest work of my life in certain ways. But it was so full of beauty and bliss. And I can't wait to share it with you. So we'll be right back.